The Memory of Love, Chapter 31. 3 o'clock. The previous Friday, Kai arrived at the U.S. Embassy and stated his business to the Marine in the glass booth at the front gate. The Marine pointed to a long line of men standing in front of the hatch on the outside wall. Green card, lottery right there. Kai shook his head. "I'm a doctor, a surgeon," he said. "One moment, sir." The Marine leaned forward and pressed the buzzer to allow him through the security gate. "Office at the end of the hall. Have a good day." As he was leaving, Kai passed by the queue of men in the street. The line appeared undiminished, though he'd been inside the embassy building for 30 minutes. The men were young, the youngest perhaps 17 or 18, lean or muscled, dressed in jeans and t-shirts. From the embassy, he'd strolled up the street to the roundabout. He'd been standing there only a few minutes when Adrian caught sight of him. That was Friday. Today is Sunday, a Sunday in April, April Fool's Day, no less. He knows this because he has written the date on the top right-hand corner of the aerogram, but also because he can see a bus sneaking around up to no good. At this very moment, the boy is peeping around the corner, checking Kai's whereabouts and imagining himself invisible. The trouble with the bus is that he's incapable of keeping a straight face. Kai had already helped a bewildered aunt into her room after she struggled in vain to grasp a doorknob greased with Vaseline. Abbas had been stalking the old lady since breakfast. Kai bends back to the letter. Tejani's last letter mentioned the new girlfriend. What was her name? Kai reaches for the crumpled blue paper and smooths it out, begins to read it over. Tejani wants Kai to join him in America. 2 years after they said goodbye, it looks like Kai is finally coming. Tejani is his best friend, the person he has been closest to most of his life. With the exception only of Neneba, there has been 3 of them, always 3. Tejani was the third lover. Or was it Neneba? Sometimes Kai saw himself at the center, best friend to Tejani, lover to Neneba. More often, he seen Neneba as the center. They both loved her, after all. Tejani left. A year later, Neneba and Kai were no longer a couple. Might it have been different if Tejani had stayed? Kai doesn't know. Helena, it sounds like Tejani might even marry her. He says in his letter, we are going to buy a place. Kai still hasn't congratulated him for his exam pass. He pens a few lines, striving for and falling short of Tejani's cheerful tone. How Nenebe had envied Kai. He knew, for she had told him she'd envied him the cleanliness of his work, the moral purity of the task at hand. They'd been lying in bed, spooned against each other. He was still inside her, savoring the slipperiness of semen and sweat. Once she described for him the sensation that followed his withdrawal from her body if it happened too soon. His abandonment of her body, loss, she said, it felt like loss. That night was some years after she dropped out of college. What had she done wrong? He never really knew. He had to be up early for surgery. She was broody and angry with him, and in a visceral way he knew why. It was for knowing every morning when he awoke, without any shade of doubt, what he was there to do. The certainty she no longer possessed. She'd lost her faith at exactly the same time he'd found his. Neither one of them expected such a thing to happen. After the love-making, she'd pulled away, withdrawing her body from him, suddenly no longer inside her. He experienced the sensation as a shock, an abandonment, and later, in the middle of the night, he reached for her and failed to find her. Saw her standing by the open window. He'd gone over and drawn her back into bed, lying against her into the early hours. He could feel the rapid beating of her heart. Neither of them spoke, neither of them slept. He picks up the pen again and continues to write, congratulating Tejani on the exam pass. In his letter, Tejani reminds Kai of the days they'd been forced to revise by torchlight, of the petition the students had raised and presented at the Vice-Chancellor's office. The authorities were having none of it, and the gathering had grown angry. It is a wonder to him now to think of it, the students' moral indignation. Where the hell had they even got the idea they had the right to it? The Vice-Chancellor's reaction had been one of cold fury. He'd remained in his office while he sent security to deal with them. A security officer had taken the petition, and for a foolish moment, a cheer had gone up. The students thought they had a victory. Instead, they had given the authorities a place to begin, a list of dissenters. Nenebe left soon after. Life on the campus became untenable for her. So she said, Kai thought she'd given in too easily, but he had sensed also the anger in her, the desire to hurt someone for what had happened. Hey man, Kai writes, does the new house come with a pool as well as a couch? Get ready for your new house guest. When he finishes the letter, he seals the edges and puts it in his pocket. He is minded to walk down to the post office, then remembers it is Sunday. The heat has yet to break. Kai can hear the recitatives of the evangelical churches, the exhortation of their pastors, the wild assurance of the congregations. His cousin had gone to church. He has lent her Old Faithful. Abbas, he calls. The boy appears suspiciously quickly. Want to go to the beach? Yeah. Hurry up then. Fetch your trunks. How about a curry at the Ocean Club? Abbas races into the house. Kai follows to fetch his own trunks, a paper bag, and his sunglasses. He finds the glasses on the coffee table in the sitting room. When Abbas appears, he puts his arm around the boy's shoulders. Already, Abbas knows. Out in the streets, away from the shade of the yard, the shadows are sharp, the edges hard, colors brilliant beneath the sun. Kai reaches for his sunglasses and puts them on. Without warning, his vision grows blurred. The brightness disappears, the edges of the house grow indistinct, and the shadows merge into each other. He stops, uncertain of his step. He removes his glasses. Very funny, Abbas, he says. The kid is rocking from side to side, clutching his belly, laughing. Kai makes a start to lunge at him. The child ducks. They walk down the street towards the main road. In the back of the cab, Kai peels away the layer of cling film from the inside of the glasses. Much later, after they have swung together, he watches Abbas play on along in the waves, crashing through the surf over and over, and he feels his love for the boy rise in his chest, pressing against his ribcage, crushing his lungs and his heart, as if it will suffocate him. Monday morning, Kai makes his way to Foday's ward. When he arrives, Foday is in the toilet, so Kai sits on the edge of the bed and waits for him. The matron appears and tries to fuss over him, but Kai waves her away. There above the bed is the Polaroid of Foday, which moved with him from bed to bed, Foday's talisman, to show him how far he has come. 2 operations, and so far they straightened both tibias, breaking each bone in 3 places and resetting it. That was the easy part. Next, they tackled the feet. If Foday had been treated by doctors as a baby, it would have been a simple job. Now he was an adult. The operation was complicated, more so if they had to lengthen the Achilles tendon. On the nightstand are a carafe of water and Foday's few possessions, including the school exercise book, which he uses as a diary, keeping careful notes of his treatment and his conversations with Kai. The writing on the cover is as strained and effortful as Foday's walking. Nothing came easily to Foday in life, thinks Kai. But Christ, what a fighter. At that moment, Fode appears pushing himself along in his wheelchair. A male nurse follows behind. Kai stands and raises his right hand in salute, and Fode returns the gesture. Freewheeling for a few minutes, a yard from the bed, he maneuvers the wheelchair skillfully around. Looking good, says Kai. Yes, thank you, doctor. Fode's voice is strong today. The male nurse comes around, ready to lift him into bed, but Fode shakes his head. Kai folds his arms and watches Fode. The young man's eyes narrow in concentration. He takes a deep breath and levers himself up. For a moment, he is suspended like a gymnast on a pommel horse. Then he eases himself down and rights himself upon the bed, arranging his leg in the cast in front of him. When he is finished, he turns to Kai. Great, says Kai. Fode grins. How's the physiotherapy? Kai leans forward and squeezes Fode's other calf muscle. Slight, still from the weeks encased in plaster. The lady, Miss Salinas, she says, she is pleased with me. Good. You are not overdoing it now, are you? We really don't want you to run before you can walk. I mean it. Fode laughs. No, doctor. Kai, don't worry. First, I'm walking, then running. After that, maybe cartwheels. Please pass me my book. Kai passes him the exercise book. Fode opens it, removes a photograph and hands it to Kai. The picture shows a young woman of around 19 sitting demurely on a stool in front of her hut, dressed in what appears to be her best clothes and shoes. Her smile is for the camera, for she looks shy as though she is not used to being photographed. Ah, says Kai, let me guess, your fiancé. He studies the photograph for a few seconds more and gives it back to Fode. No, she's not my fiancé. I would like her to be, though. Your girlfriend? Her name is Zainab. We were townsmates. She has sent me this picture of herself while I'm in hospital. So you see, I think she likes me. It looks that way to me. Fode holds the picture up close to his face, then lowers it and smoothes it with his palm before replacing it carefully between the leaves of the exercise book. He passes the book to Kai and pulls himself further up the bed. I would like to ask you something, doctor. Sure, says Kai, once he has returned the book to its place. Ask away, my friend. After my operations, maybe I will go to Zainab's family to put a collar for her. That's what I am thinking. Okay, I will discuss it with Zainab first, of course. But if she has sent me this picture of herself, then I think she will consider me. I have no doubt Zainab will be happy for you to go to her parents. Thank you, doctor. And you see, what it is I want to ask is whether you will come with me as my elder brother. For a moment, Kai is quiet. Then he says, I'd be honored to come as your elder brother, but don't you have any other brothers or uncles you want to ask? Fode shakes his head. My elder brothers are away in the mines. Besides, if Zainab's family see you, then I know they will want to accept me. Kai laughs. He reaches over and pats Fode on the shoulder. Sure, my friend, I can do that. But you know the minute they see me, they'll double the bride gift, don't you? I know, Fode shrugs, but I have been putting aside little by little. The bride gift will be all right, I think. Besides, if Zainab wants me, then she will speak to her parents. Then we have a deal. Kai offers his hand to Fode, and they shake, snapping fingers and punching each other on the knuckles. A minute or so later, Kai prepares to leave, asks Fode if he needs something. Maybe you can borrow me a radio? Sure, I'll see what I can do. Kai should talk to Fode about his next operation, but he decides to leave it for the day. There's no hurry. Fode's greatest challenges are ahead of him. Kai knows this. Fode knows this. Meanwhile, there is Zainab, waiting for him in her Sunday best. Whatever it takes, Kai says these words to himself, whatever it takes. Outside the ward, he catches sight of Mrs. Mara, cutting the corner of the courtyard, struggling in her high heels across the uneven grass. He pauses a bit to give her time to get ahead, then makes his way to Adrian's apartment, where he knocks on the door at the same time as he slips the key into the lock. The apartment is empty. The kitchen is tidy and bare. He puts some water in the kettle, and while he is waiting for it to boil, searches out the old Philips transistor in the back of one of the cabinets. The radio is bulky and battered but serviceable, despite a definable hiss. He drinks his coffee at the kitchen window. A sunburn descends, hovers briefly at the empty feeder, and is gone. A few minutes later, so is Kai.